Hello and welcome to this yoga flow focused on disrupting patterns. And we'll be getting into the hips today. I'll offer lots of modifications. I'll have 2 blocks handy to offer as supports throughout the class. If you don't have blocks, you may want to find a water bottle or 2 water bottles, and then a really supportive pillow, just a tiny pillow, one that's on your couch or something to have nearby. And as we start class today, 2 options for you. Option 1, coming into a wide-legged child's pose, drawing the toes together, knees really wide, sneaking the sit bones all the way back, then settling the forehead down to the floor onto a block. You can also add supports underneath the seat instead. This is where I'm going to play this practice, but you're also welcome to turn onto your back and take a reclined butterfly. Or you can take a seated butterfly as well. Our intention is just to give a subtle early opening to the fronts of the hips. So if you're in butterfly, soles of the feet come together, heels fairly far away from the body to start. And then knees drop out. You can add supports underneath the knees. So choosing whichever option is calling you, and if there's something else you prefer to take to start your practice, you're welcome to go there, remembering that my words are simply a guide and that your body knows what it needs. So never feeling forced into a pose as we move through. At the same time, inviting yourself to feel a little bit challenged. That challenge doesn't need to be physically. We can do our best to be kind to our bodies. There's also the mental and emotional side of yoga. As you settle in, noticing the quality of your breath without trying to change it. Making small adjustments to the body as needed. Really soften through the heart. Soften through the fronts of the hips. Observing the natural rhythm of your breath. Or at least where it is today. Scanning through the body, noticing where you feel tension or resistance. Noticing what parts of the body feel at ease. Coming into the thoughts. Observing the quality of your thoughts. What you're latching onto. Maybe you feel very clear in the mind at this time. This practice is an observance. Allowing ourselves to notice the thoughts without attaching onto, without judging ourselves for what we're thinking, without feeling like we need to empty out the brain. The intention of this class is to disrupt the patterns that we hold in the body. It's physically, mentally, and emotionally. Take a moment just to check in with where you are at emotionally. Finding a word, or perhaps a sensation, a color, an animal, a shape. Something that helps you describe how you feel. Step one in disrupting our framework, our patterns that we hold, is by acknowledging them. Rather than avoiding, resisting, or trying to pass through, we allow ourselves to sit with, to notice, to particularly notice any repetitive patterns of strain. Let's deepen into our breath, taking a full inhale. Clearing breath through the mouth. Another inhale. Exhale, sigh it out. And we'll pause to transition. Pressing into the hands if you're in child's pose. If you're on your back, staying on your back. And we'll drop over to one hip and turn onto our backs. Setting the soles of the feet onto the floor. Let the hands rest alongside you. And then left foot comes up onto the right thigh, pressing the left knee away. Right heel is aligned with the hip as best as you can make it. And soften through the shoulders. Nestle the shoulders down into your mat. Option to take your left hand and press it against the left thigh. And if this feels enough for you, stay right here. Softening in through the back body. Or we can move into thread the needle, using your core to engage, hugging that right knee in towards your chest. Interlacing the fingers just behind the hamstrings today. You can place them around the shins if you'd like, but if you haven't explored this subtler variation behind the hamstrings, I really encourage you to do so. Draw the toes towards the knees. Feel how that shifts the engagement through the legs. And then pull the sit bones away from the top of the head. Keep that chin slightly tucked in. Release the shoulders down. Soften through the fingers. Come back into the breath, this time inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Trying to match the length of your inhale and the length of your exhale. If you'd like, it may feel helpful to take a breath count. Breathing into 4 and out to 4. Or any other pattern that you'd like. Using our breath as an anchor for change. moving us into a parasympathetic state, a state of rest and digestion. Not only digestion through the digestive system, but also giving us time to digest the patterns of our thoughts and of the resistance that we hold. Slowly release the leg if the right foot is lifted, returning it down to the floor. Hands come alongside, palms face down. Wiggle the right foot over towards the left side of the mat and then press down through the right foot to lift the hips, drawing the right hip to the center of the mat. Keep your upper body squared as you lower through the outer line of the right leg, letting it rest down on the floor. Left sole of foot comes to the floor, left knee stays stacked on top of the heel. So we're moving into a figure four twist. And stay as is, or option to take the right hand to the inner left thigh. A really gentle compression to draw that hip open and away. You might feel comfortable to take the left hand onto the left hip, or just let it rest alongside you. And if you're not feeling it, you may need to shimmy that right hip a little further to the left. Each time we transition into a new shape, notice how it shifts the sensations in your body. If the hands are supporting, release them down to the floor, palms face down. Press through the hands, root through the outer edge of the right foot, draw yourself up to center. Square through the hips. Let your left foot rest down. Walk both feet to the edges of the mat, drop the knees in. Hands can come onto belly, the heart, or top of the hips. And a comfortable place to neutralize. Noticing how left side and right side feel in comparison to one another. Staying with the breath. Drawing those inhales all the way down into the belly. Full expansion through the rib cage. Maybe even coming into Ujjayi breath, taking that slight restriction through the back of the throat. And breathing out through the nose as though you were sighing. If you're feeling that tricky, you can open the mouth and visualize fogging up a mirror, and then take that same sensation with the nose and the mouth closed. One more round of breath. Release the hands. Preparing for the other side, let the left sole of foot come in line with the hip, settling to the floor. Right knee crosses, or right ankle crosses over the left thigh. Draw that right knee out and back. Right hand can support on the thigh. Checking in with the back of the neck. Adding lots of length from the base of your skull to the middle of your shoulder blades. And you can stay as is or engage through the core to slowly hug the left knee in, interlacing the fingers behind the hamstrings. And switch the interlacing so that it's the opposite as you took on the other side. If you can't remember, it's probably the opposite of what you naturally did. As our body holds patterns, our body has a tendency to repeat the same things, as it requires less effort in the brain, in those neurological circuits. When we play and stay curious, we invite for an opportunity to shift, to rewire those circuits. And as you settle in, feeling any variations from this side to the other. Maybe it feels quite similar. We hold these poses to give us time to notice our thoughts, notice our feelings. If you are expecting a fast flow, see how you can stay with it. There's not only strength in rapid movements or deep poses, but we gain strength by being wholly present with all aspects of ourselves. Having the resilience to hold in stillness, to be there with our minds. Soften through fingers, release that left foot down. The hands come alongside you. Shinny the left foot over to the right. Plant down through the hands, press through the left foot, lift up the hips, draw the hips over to the right as well. Drop down through the outer line of the left leg, planting the right foot onto the floor. Right knee stays stacked above the heel. Easing into the twist. Maybe that left hand supports on the thigh. Right hand can also come up onto the hip, helping you move your focus there. If you get lost in the stillness and the silence, come back to your anchor and come back to your breath. Hands release down. Root through the outer edge of the left foot. Press down, rise up. Dropping the right sole of the foot into the floor. And hug the knees into the chest. And take a circle through the knees, drawing them away and then back in. And switch directions. Massaging out through the low back. You can take both knees wide and draw them in. And come the other way. You can ignore whatever I'm saying and just roll in your own manner. Recentering. Making sure we're even through the movements. And then we'll roll onto one side to rise up into tabletop. Tucking through the toes. Taking a few cat-cows, or if you'd rather shake out through the hips or take hip circles, that's also an option. Find whatever movement works for you, getting into the spine. Just trusting in your own intuitive movement, not worrying about whether you're doing it right or wrong. Just shaking out any pattern that tells you you have to perform. Holding that tells you that there's one right way to do yoga. One right way to be in a pose. And then we'll meet in neutral on an inhale. The hands slightly forward, slightly wider. Tuck up through the toes. Shift back downward facing dog. This feels like a lot for you today. You have something going on in the knees or the hips or the arms. You can always stay on your knees. Walk the hands even further forward and drop down into puppy. Or you can take a child's pose, as we did at the beginning of class. If you're meeting me in down dog, it may feel good to bend one knee, drop opposite heel down, and switch sides. So waking up through the backs of the legs. Spread your fingers really wide. And then roll your armpits in towards your ears, keeping a slight bend at the elbows so we're not hyperextending. Good, and then send your weight up and back in towards your sit bones. So the weight shouldn't really be in our arms. Should feel really light there. You want your hands to feel as though they're a suction cup. So if you had a dollar or a loonie, a chocolate loonie underneath your palms, it wouldn't melt. You wouldn't be squishing it down into the floor. Once you feel even through the legs, finding stillness and holding here. Deep breaths in and out. May feel good to take a clearing breath. Let the head hang heavy. Gaze can come between the thighs or the eyes can close. Good. And then option 1, stay with me here. Option 2, you can drop down to the knees and take these circles in tabletop instead. So coming to here and taking the circles, we're going to move through some big hip circles. So lift the left leg up towards the sky, heel up. Then exhale, hug the knee in towards the chest. Stay really strong and stable through the right leg. Inhale, draw the left knee out towards the side and kick the leg back. Again, inhale, hug the knee in towards the chest. Draw it out to the side. And exhale, kick it back. Got one more this side. Opening up. And then exhale, releasing back. Inhale, hug the knee in towards the chest. Draw yourself forward. Step the left foot forward and release the right knee down to the floor. Walk the left foot over towards the edge of your mat. Tent up onto the right fingertips. And then lift up through the front of the right hip. Send it forward. Send your left knee out towards your left pinky toe. And if the floor feels really far away, you can add a block to support underneath the right hand. Inhale, draw the chest open, spreading the collarbones, lifting up through the top of the head. Exhale, left hand comes up and onto the left thigh. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. As you exhale, open up and twist to the left. Draw the left shoulder blade back. Staying soft through the right hand. Steady the breath. If it feels comfortable through the neck, maybe the chin turns towards the left shoulder. Root down through the left big toe mound, but keep pressing that knee forward and out towards the pinky toe. Stay really open through the heart and engage through the core by hugging the hip bones a little bit closer towards one another, rather than letting that belly dump forward. Good, and then as you breathe into the twist, let it wring out any holding through the spine. Steady in your breath. Take an inhale to lengthen. Exhale, release the left hand down inside the left foot. And then you can stay lowered on that right knee, or we tuck through the toes, lift up through the right heel, and then draw the right heel onto the floor so that you're setting up for warrior two legs. So ideally, that left heel is in line with either the right heel or the arc of the foot. We root down through the outer edge of the right foot. The angle of the foot doesn't matter so much. All of our bodies are shaped differently. However, we do want a little bit of a forward arc through the foot. So we're not pointing the toes back, we're keeping them somewhat forward. And you may want your block as we settle in here. Keeping that left knee drawing out to the side. Left hand can come up onto a block, or it can stay on the ground. Right hand can stay on the ground, or we take the right hand up onto our right hip. Opening up through the right side of the chest. Imagine as though you're pressing your shoulder blades against a wall. Good. Feel that strength in your core. Keep sending the top of the head away from the base of the spine. So not letting the shoulders and the ears crunch together. Feel and breathe into that resistance that you may notice through that left hip. Maybe this feels really easy for you. We're all different. And each day we meet ourselves at a different point in time. So one day this may feel easy and another it may feel quite challenging. Remembering you can always take this down on that right knee instead. So as we work deeply into the hips, you may start to notice the emotions get a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger. It's quite common to hold our stress in our hips. And try to let yourself breathe through it. Instead of resisting, meeting yourself there. Disrupting that need to avoid, that need to hide, whatever you're feeling. Gaze can look up towards the right shoulder if that feels comfortable in the neck. And take another inhale. Exhale. Let the right hand drop down. Keep the legs as they are and walk the hands over towards the middle of the long edge of your mat. So we're still staying bent through that knee. Feel that burn through the legs. And if the knee is down, you may want to lift up the knee, or you can just play here. Right hand can come up onto a block, or both hands can come up to the block if the floor feels really far away. We'll root our right fingertips into the floor, and option to take the left hand up onto the left thigh. Stay bent through that knee. Use the hand to subtly draw the thigh away. Stay long through the spine, soft and open through the heart. Keep plugging through the outer edge of that right foot. So for those who are looking for a quick, deep flow, and we're disappointed at the fact that we were holding these slow, subtle poses earlier, maybe you're noticing now that sometimes the strengths can come through the holds. By strengths, I mean strength. Be with yourself. Whatever is coming up, let it come through. And if it doesn't serve you, see if you can breathe it out with the exhales. Any doubt in the self? Encouraging yourself to move through the discomfort. Take an inhale. Exhale, release the left hand, and then point the left toes towards the side of the mat. Turn both heels slightly out, toes in. Inhale, long. Exhale, drop into a fold. Feel that release. Well, if you have a block nearby, it might feel really nice just to let the head settle down onto it. Taking off any pressure through the neck, the shoulders. And see if you can draw more weight into the tips of your toes. Lift the sit bones up a little bit higher. And lots of options with the arms. Let the arms rest below the chest, or take them wide out in front of you, or walk them behind you. The fingertips face back. They press down along the back edge of your mat. Try to let go of whatever came up through that left side. Surrendering to gravity. Softening in. We practice disrupting the patterns within ourselves so that we can have more confidence in observing and noticing the patterns of the systems that govern us externally. We can learn to notice which aspects of those systems no longer serve. We have a little more confidence in telling ourselves that we have the power to dismantle and to change. Let's return underneath the chest. Root down through the feet. Lift up halfway, straightening through the spine. Exhale to walk our hands to frame the right foot, lifting up onto our left toes. The high lunge. Take an inhale, send the chest forward. Exhale, straighten through the right leg, draw the left heel back. Inhale, bend through right knee, send the chest forward. You can always drop that left knee down. Exhale, straighten and draw back. And take one more. Inhale, open the chest forward. And exhale, drop. Inhale, send the weight in towards the right foot. Lift the left foot to step it forward. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, sigh it out. Now at the back of our mat, that's okay. We'll be all right. And step the left foot all the way back. Step the right foot back. Inhale into a plank. Draw yourself onto the tips of your toes. Option to drop the knees down. Exhale, lower the chest down to the floor, chaturanga. Release through the chest, untuck through the toes. Hug the elbows in. Inhale for cobra. Exhale, press through the hands. Root through the knees. Draw back through child's, tucking up onto the toes. Inhale, lift up, downward facing dog. Take an inhale to lift the heels really high. Exhale, bend deeply through the knees. Send the weight back into the seat. Inhale, straighten through the legs. And exhale, lower the heels down. Coming over to the opposite side, finding those hip circles. So you can take them in tabletop. That feels better for your body. We'll sweep the right leg up towards the sky. Inhale, draw the right knee in towards the chest. Keep that left leg long. Sweep the right knee out towards the side. Open it up and straighten through the leg. Inhale, coming forward. Draw the knee out. Exhale, press it back. Take one more. And sweep it back. Inhale, draw the right knee in towards the chest as you sweep it forward into a plank. Step the right foot down. Lower the left knee to the floor. Take the hands inside of the right foot as you walk the right foot out to the edge of your mat. Then option to find a block for the left hand as we ease into our lizard lunge. We'll start by finding the length through the spine, squaring and opening through the chest. Pull that right knee out towards the right pinky toe. Lift up through the front of the left hip. Then left hand can come onto that block, or we can keep the fingertips down. Option to take the right hand onto the right thigh. Take an inhale to lengthen, and exhale into the twist, opening that right shoulder back. Steady in the breath. Maybe the gaze looks back over the right shoulder, just making sure that doesn't cause too much tension through the neck. Staying tucked up onto those left toes. Keep lifting up through the front of the left hip. And find your breath. Take another inhale. Exhale to unwind, releasing that right foot to the inside of or right hand to the inside of the right foot. And we can stay low through that left knee, or lift up through the left knee, drop down through the left heel. You may need to adjust your feet slightly to find that line that feels most comfortable in the legs. Stay nice and bent through that right knee. Option to move your block to support underneath the right hand. Remember, there's nothing wrong with blocks if they help you deepen into the pose. Then root down through those right fingers. Maybe the left hand comes up onto the left hip. Send the shoulder blades back as though you were pressing against that imaginary wall. Really open through the heart space. Strong and supported through that right leg. Active and engaged through that left foot. And we hold and we feel. And we let go of anything that's telling us no. Unless what's telling us no is pain, then we drop down through that left knee, or we find another variation for ourselves. Maybe the chin looks towards the left shoulder. We hold and deepen in. We feel the foundation below us, and we lift that heart up. It's a balancing act of creating a stable base so that we can thrive. And when our foundations are broken, our foundations aren't sturdy, and it's really hard to allow ourselves to grow. To find that nourishment that can help us move through the challenge. Find that length through the spine on an inhale. Exhale. Left hand drops out towards the side. Then we walk the right hand over, stay bent through that right leg. So the shoulders are coming square to the long edge of your mat. You can use a block underneath the hand or both hands. Good. Find that length, find that activation through the core, subtle hugging of the hip bones together. It might even feel helpful to draw the right sit bone towards the left inner thigh. And left fingertips stay rooted. Option to take the right hand up onto the inner right thigh. You may notice that my breath is getting shallow here. Believe it or not, I'm also a human and I also hold tension and resistance. And who does this hip like to hold my anchor? And that's how I associate. And that's what I breathe through. But maybe for you, this hip feels fantastic. Maybe for you, there's some frustration or sadness. Maybe you have a lot of positive energy held up in that hip. Just really notice whatever's there. Breathe through. Because as much as society has told us that emotions are bad, that we should always be positive, everything should always be fine, that's not how our bodies respond. It's really important to give ourselves time to reflect on those emotions. Give ourselves an outlet to express those emotions so that we can come back to that sense of stability, sense of grounding within ourselves. Next exhale, lowers that right hand down and feel that release as you straighten through the leg. Bring both toes out towards the side. Find a halfway lift. And exhale, bend the elbows, melt down. You can find that block to support underneath the head. If that worked for you last time or you didn't explore it, want to try it again. Then same options with the arms. Or a few more options, if you're feeling really stable through the legs, drawing lots of weight into the toes, lifting up through those sit bones, maybe the hands can come up onto the shins. Or maybe the peace fingers wrap around the toes. Or maybe you take a yoga mudra behind the back, interlacing the fingers and drawing the knuckles up towards the sky. Maybe a forearm balance is in your practice and you take a tripod stance. Maybe you just want child's pose. You can also go there. Trust that you know what your body needs. I feel like we're often ingrained with a sense of doubt, always relying on others to tell us what is right or wrong, because that is the way that our society has shaped us. When we can empower ourselves to make our own decisions and really trust in that innate, that natural intuition, we can allow ourselves to speak up, to act, to disrupt those behavioral patterns in ways that benefit the whole, not just ourselves, so that we can transform as a community. Wherever the hands are, let them arrive back underneath the chest. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, let the hands walk over towards the left toes, bending through the left knee, lifting up onto the right toes. We'll inhale, draw the chest forward. Exhale, straighten through the left leg, draw the right heel back. Inhale, forward. And exhale, back. One more. Exhale, back. As you inhale, send the weight forward, support through the left leg as you step the right foot to meet the left forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. And exhale to melt down. Bend the knees a lot, hinge through the hips. Inhale, standing tall. Sweep the hands up to sky. Exhale, hands come to the heart. And close the eyes. Release the hands alongside you, palms facing forward. And inhale. And exhale. And moving into mountain, I like to shift so that the outer edges of my feet are parallel with one another, with my feet firmly planted underneath my hips. And root down through your big toe mounds, pinky toe mounds, and heels. Lift up and spread the toes, really feeling into the arches of your feet. And once you find that foundation, spread the toes and soften the toes down. Moving up the leg, find a slight bend of the knees. And then sway the hips to stack back over the heels. And a gentle hug of the hip bones together. And then slight spreading of the sit bones away from one another, relieving tension through the low back. Moving up, we hug the low ribs down. And draw our shoulders to stack over our hips. Soften through the fingertips with the palms face forward. Gentle tuck of the chin as we lift up and lengthen through the back of our neck. Lifting up through the tip of our head, sending the ears to stack back over the shoulders. If it's comfortable, the eyes close. We notice how it feels to have a sturdy foundation. Feet rooting us down into the earth. And with joints in alignment, we can flow and sway and float a little bit easier in this space surrounding us. With a solid alignment from the ground up, we minimize the straining in our bodies. We minimize the emotional holding. We let go of thoughts that we're resisting. We can fully be here expressing ourselves and showing up in our whole being. It's a little bit easier for us to show up for others when we feel this sense of strength balanced with softness within ourselves. Grounding with the willingness to receive. Down through the feet, inhale, sweep the hands overhead. Fingertips touch, maybe gaze looks up for a slight back bend. Exhale, bend through the knees, hands through prayer, release down into a fold. Inhale, halfway lift, straighten up. And exhale, surrender down. Plant through the hands, step the right foot back, then the left foot back, coming into your plank. Inhale, draw the body forward all the way up to the tips of your toes. We exhale through chaturanga, option to drop the knees. Inhale into your back bend. Maybe this time you find upward dog, keeping the knees lifted, opening through the heart. And then exhale, child's pose or downward facing dog. Take a full cycle of breath. Emptying out. Inhale. And exhale. Eating in tabletop. If you're in down dog, the knees drop. And for our final sequence of poses, I'll be offering them with blocks. So taking a supported pigeon. If you feel like pigeon is too much for you today, you can always go back to what we started with at the beginning of practice with thread the needle, or with a butterfly, or with figure four without the knees coming up into the chest. Another option that I'll show is to take 90-90. So your front leg will be parallel to the short edge of the mat, long edge will be parallel to the thigh, and then your back leg will be the opposite. So thigh will be parallel to the short edge, and the shin will be parallel to the long edge. So you're kind of almost making a square with the legs minus this one section here. And then you'll drop it in the same way that we'll drop into pigeon. So this is an alternative that I strongly encourage if you feel like when we get into that pigeon variation, it's too much. It's quite an easy transition to move into this pose instead. And I like to come into pigeon through down dog, but if there's a different variation that works better for your body, you're more than welcome to take that. To set up, we'll have one block right underneath the forehead, and then the other will come over towards your left side. And I like to have the long side horizontal with the short edge of the mat, so the way it's shown here. Planting the hands down, tucking up through the toes. We'll sweep up into downward facing dog. Spread through the fingertips, root down through the right toes. Inhale, left leg sweeps up to sky, heel points up. Exhale, bend through the left knee, draw yourself forward. Take the left knee all the way over to the right elbow. And then kick the left foot so that the outer edge of the left foot drops down behind the right wrist. Bend the right knee, release it to the floor. Let the left knee drop behind the left wrist. And then tent up onto your fingers. Slide that block underneath your left sit bone. Use your right toes to wiggle yourself back. And then stay high on the fingers. And look back over your right shoulder if it feels okay with the neck. Untuck through the right toes and align the right heel, right knee, and right hip together. Pressing down through the back of the right foot, trying not to drop on one edge or the other of that foot, that we're not compromising the ankle joint. And I practice pigeon with my shin parallel to the short edge of the mat. But a lot of people prefer to draw that left heel slightly in. So if that's in your practice, that's what you'd rather do, you're welcome to take that. Remembering that my words are guides and there's lots of options here. Then really let that left sit bone nestle down into your block. You may need a higher setting in the block if it feels really far away. Take an inhale, lift the chest, lift through the top of the head. And exhale, walking the fingers forward. You can stay high if you prefer a proud pigeon this morning or this evening, whenever you're practicing. Your left toes pull towards the left knee, finding lots of engagement through that leg. Maybe we drop onto the forearms, and the block is here as an option to release the forehead onto. And then drop down through the front of the right hip and pull and lift up through the left. Stay really open through the chest. And as you hold, you may find that you can drop that block to a lower setting. You may prefer to just stack the fists instead. Or the head may come all the way down to the floor. Just take it slowly, no rush. We'll be here for a little bit. Final round of feeling into the hips and all that they hold. Of disrupting whatever patterns reside there. In our physical body, in our thoughts, and through our emotions. Maintain lots of length through the spine. Really think about lifting out through the top of the head, rather than collapsing and compromising through that low back. And so even though we have a gentle back bend, we're pulling the sit bones and the top of the head in opposite directions, rather than collapsing. Where does the mind go when it meets resistance? How can you use your anchor of the breath to move through it? Work through the hands to slowly rise up. Note the emphasis on slow. Open up through the chest. And I like to come out of pigeon the same way I went in, but if there's a different option that works for your body, feel free to take that. Tucking up through the right toes, we press down through the outer edge of the left hip, lift the knee, sweep the leg all the way up and back, kick the heel up. An option to bend through the left knee, stack the left knee up as you draw the hip in alignment with the right hip. Settle the right heel down to the floor, finding this big opening, squaring through the chest. So drop the left shoulder down, lift the right shoulder up. Inhale, lift that knee a little bit higher. Exhale, release the left foot down to meet the right. Drop the knees into table. Adjust your blocks to set up for the other side. And once you're ready, hop back up into downward facing dog. Inhale, right heel sweeps up to the sky. Exhale, bend through right knee. Draw the right knee over to the left elbow. Then plant the right foot behind the left wrist. Drop the left knee down. Settle in to that right knee. And then use your left foot to sneak back and drop onto the block. Untuck through the left toes. Maybe sneak a peek back at that left leg to make sure it's in alignment. Tent up onto the fingers. Adjust that block underneath the right sit bone as needed. And square the chest. Spread the collarbones, slightly hugging those shoulder blades together along the back body. Once you feel centered, you can move slowly into the folded variation. Remember the alternative options too, figure four, thread the needle, or 90-90. And you may have a block to support underneath the forehead. And the right toes point towards the right knee. Dropping the left hip forward and down. Trying to pull up through that right hip. Release any gripping through the throat or through the fingers. And all the effort comes through the hips and through the core. Adjusting only to deepen further or ease out. Trying not to fiddle around to distract yourself from what is coming up in your body. Remembering that we face discomfort, we face these challenges daily. And this practice of placing ourselves in positions of tension can carry off of our mat into our daily routines. And remind us that our breath is always there as a tool. Also remind us that the way we receive, the way we react, carries over to those around us. We are so much more than our existing patterns. We give ourselves permission to disrupt our framework. And also give ourselves permission to grow. We enable a lifetime of curiosity and exploration rather than stagnancy. Moving out staleness, making space for new perspectives. Use the hands to rise up as gracefully as you can. Inhale at the top, spread through the chest. And then finding your way out. If you're coming with me, tucking through the left toes, rooting through the right foot, and lifting the right leg nice and high. Bending through the right knee. Stacking right hip over the left knee. Lifts up to the sky as you plug the left heel down. Lift through left shoulder, drop right shoulder forward. And take a few breaths here. And straighten through the left or right leg. And lower the foot down to the floor. Drop the knees down. Set the blocks aside. And dropping onto your back. We've done the work, and now we let it settle. If there's anything else your body needs, moving there, pressing pause, and giving yourself the time to clear out whatever else is still remaining through twists, or cat-cows, or inversions. Or you can come with me into Shavasana. We'll eventually all meet together on our backs. Send the heels away. Feel them root down into the floor. Soften through the backs of the knees. And spread out through the sit bones. Let your sacrum, the base of the spine, drop into your mat. Moving up through the back. We walk the shoulder blades a little bit closer together so that they can flatten fully onto the floor. Feel the back of your hands resting Feel a long neck and a grounded skull. The back of the head pressing down. Energetically, you feel the heels and the top of the head moving in opposite directions. Move down through the front body, softening through the face, the throat, opening through the chest. Go up any gripping through the abdomen, through the fronts of the hips. Soft through the fingers and palms, the toes, and the soles of the feet. Settling into stillness, we can absorb everything that has come up through our practice. Those patterns that we've disrupted, giving our neurological system, our nervous system, time to rewire. Subtle vibrations in our body, replenishing and clearing out. mind is telling you that there's other places you need to be, there's things you need to do. Can you stay here just a little bit longer and disrupt that pattern of thought in the mind? Telling yourself that all you need to do is to be. Feeling into the toes. Looking through the hips, the fingertips, the abdomen, up through the heart, expansive through the chest, the throat, soft through the jaw, the forehead, the cheeks, the eyes, on top of your scalp, down through the back of your head, rooting through the shoulders, backs of the hands and the arms, and grounded through the back, your hips, your glutes, the calves, and the heels. Observing the quality of your breath. Notice if it's shifted from the initial breath pattern you held at the beginning of practice. Maybe not. There's no right or wrong. There just is. Observing where your thoughts are in this moment. Observing how you feel. Labeling it with an emotion, the color, the shape, an animal. Again, noticing if it's the same or different. What you noticed at the beginning of practice. You're constantly shaping and reshaping, transforming into a new self at every moment. We can learn to really embrace that concept rather than clinging on to this notion that we are who we are. We may begin to step forward with more awareness in how we want to show up in our world. What patterns we want to disrupt, both within ourselves within those systems that are a part of our being. The institutions, the cultural norms that guide us and tell us what we believe or what should be right. How we should treat one another based on what we've learned, what has been ingrained into our patterns of being. Instead of acting and reacting because that's how we are. We learn to take the time to notice and observe so that we can change. Take a moment to think of one pattern that you would like to disrupt within yourself. Whether it be a physical holding, a mental approach, a belief, hidden emotion, source of tension or resistance. The way that you show up in your relationship with others. Define that for yourself. Inhale it in. Hold at the top. And exhale, send it out. Committing that one intention into the ether, into the universe. And take a breath in for showing up and being here. Spending this time disrupting the patterns, being with you. Exhale, thanking everyone that has shared in this practice through the wonders of the internet. Everyone who has shaped your yoga practice up until now. And stay here for as long as you need to. When you ease out slowly. And I'll leave you be with all my gratitude. I thank you for showing up and joining in this practice. And from my heart to yours, may we all disrupt for the positive, create the change we need to make a better world. These videos are made through love and hard work. Your contributions allow me to keep sharing new content with you. If you're able to give back financially, please click the Make a Donation button on the homepage of this channel. You're also welcome to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest video offerings. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Don't be Kona!